Hi, my name is Jess, and my sobriety date is June 4th, 2017, and today is May 30th, 2026. So I'm about to turn 9 years sober in a couple of days, and just wow on every level. Wow, 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 wow. And so today I want to talk about the recovery advice that did not work for me, because I think it's really important for everyone to understand that you're not going to vibe with every piece of advice given to you. And I would actually say to really question things. Take the advice, sit with it, maybe try it out for an hour or two or three, and then ditch it once you realize that it's not where you are, it's not where you're aligned with, and it's not what you want to be doing in life. You have to really listen to yourself, and you're going to piss a lot of people off. Okay, you're going to piss a lot of people off by choosing yourself. That's a good thing. Okay. So some of the advice early on that I got, I'll tell you, and then why it didn't stick with me. Number one, out of the gate, and I'm going to talk about 12 steps, and I'm going to give it a fair criticism. There's a lot of good, there's a lot of iffy, and also like refuge recovery and other recovery methods. Like there's always good and always something that can be improved upon. Okay. And I know that like you're not supposed to talk about this, but I also think that we live in 2026 and not the 1930s, and everything has changed and culture has changed, and there shouldn't be a stigma around recovery. And there's a such thing as a fair criticism, especially if it's keeping people suffering unnecessarily. I hate that. Okay. So early on in sobriety, here's a couple of things. I've already talked about this, is that I walked into the rooms and everyone identified themselves as an alcoholic. And I said, I don't want to do that. So within 2 weeks, I changed my title, my identifier as, hi, my name is Jess and I'm sober today. Okay. Because I got to define sobriety for myself. I was the only person in the room, in any room, that would identify myself as sober. Think about that. Okay. So early on too, I was doing in the rooms because I was traveling, and a lot of people told me, stop making geographics. And I said to myself, well, I'm 27 years old and I'm not going to waste my late 20s not traveling. So I'm going to make it work. And a lot of people like would actually get mad at me. I don't know why. I don't know why they were like, okay, just be safe. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why people would get mad, other than they were mad that I was pursuing something that they didn't think that they could pursue. And so that's not on me. I traveled, lived in Europe. I went to Tokyo for 2 months, blah, blah. Anyway, and that was my first year of sobriety. I was in Europe for 3 months. I was in Tokyo. I went to LA and a lot of other places. And then I ended up moving to Portland for a year, and then the pandemic hit short afterwards. But I decided to do whatever the fuck I wanted to do. So as long as I didn't do drugs or drink alcohol, why the hell not, right? And there's a reason, because you become very unstable in a lot of ways. You have to feel emotions that you've never felt before, and it can be destabilizing if you're traveling as well. But you can also make it work. And I tended to think, I was like, if I'm going to have a schmooicidal thought in my parents' basement, I might as well have it at looking at Mount Fuji, right? If I'm going to have the thing anyway, if I'm going to have the big emotion anyway, I might as well be in one of the most beautiful places on the face of the planet. Why limit myself? That's not what I think sobriety is. Sobriety is liberation, and it's freedom from your old selves, from your old coping mechanisms, from your old ways. Why would I continue to be then my old self in recovery? That doesn't make any sense to me, right? A couple of other things. When I first got into the rooms, I was using intherooms.com, and I had picked up a bunch of sponsors. And every time I got to the fourth step, and everyone knows the fourth step and 12 steps, fearless moral fearless inventory of yourself, right? And you find out what you're resentful towards. And I had a relative on number one on my list, and they told me, I cycled through about 8 sponsors in 2 weeks, and they told me every time I got to the fourth step that I had to forgive that person, and I was a child and they abused me. And I said, that's a crock of shit. I'm not going to forgive this person. I don't think that I should. And the fact that you can't continue with the process until I forgive that person just did not make any sense to me. So I stopped doing the 12 steps as pretty early on, though I used the 12-step community just to have a sober community. I went to meetings thereafter, and I got a lot of wisdom from the stories. So I always went to the story like I never did the big book, the 12-step work stuff. I never did that. I would go to the shares and I would try to pick out at least like 5 to 10 pieces of wisdom from the shares thereafter, the 3-minute ones where people are like, oh, well, I did this and then I learned this. Okay, I'm going to take what that person learned instead of reading off the big book or trying to follow these arbitrary rules that clearly do not work for me. Okay, so that's how I ended up using the community, the sober community, which I think is very, very important, but I don't think you necessarily have to follow the rules of engagement, right? And so I decided early on too, because my background is in UX UI design, that I was going to just try to make it make sense to me. And so I ended up taking a whiteboard, a tiny little whiteboard, into recovery meetings, and I would start doodling because I'm a very visual person, like just diagrams of what people were talking about. And when people asked me what I was doing, I was like, oh, I'm just trying to figure out an easier path, an easier solution. And a lot of people in the 12-step group, the groups that I went into, would say, don't do that. Don't mess with it. Don't try to do anything new, Jess. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I was in the creative advertising marketing industry now for 20 years, but at that time I was in there for about 12 years. And anytime a group of people tell me to not do something, I absolutely do the damn thing, right? Because I'm like, what are you so scared of? It makes sense if one person has a very valid reason, second person has a very valid reason, but when you get to the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th person and nobody can really tell you why not to do it, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I went ahead and did it. And I did redesign the whole thing, 7 steps. It's on the website, the Sunshine Express. It's detach. And then it's the void state. I changed it to open space, and then expansion, inspire, creativity, level up, and enjoy. Those are the 7 steps that I think recovery is actually about, in sobriety too. So it's not dangerous to question things. It's not dangerous. It's not fearful, and it shouldn't be, to say, this doesn't work for me. I need to figure out what does. And I want people to understand that you can design sobriety and recovery to work for you and what you know that you need on the deep inside, because not all the advice is going to stick for you. And you have to remember that these 12 steps were created in 1930 by 2 middle-aged, semi-successful white men surrounded by Protestant Christianity in Akron, Ohio. Midwest 1930s Christianity was where all of the vernacular was coming from. Even if they did not identify as Christian themselves, they were still surrounded by it, okay? And your environment is so important to how you develop as a person. So just take that in mind. It's not woke, it's not feminist, it's not progressive, the 12 steps. So make it work for you. Okay, whatever that means, sobriety needs to work for you. Fuck everyone else, seriously. And then you can reintegrate people into your lives once you figure out what works for you, because at the end of the day, your addiction came from being this, being a lonely, bored, isolated person. And now you get to work on what that loneliness feels like to you and where you make peace with it. How about that boredom? Where is your creativity coming in? Where are the healthy coping mechanisms? You have to make this about yourself so you can then deliver peace to other people. Okay? If you don't have peace within and you don't know how to get there, you can't give it to other people. If you don't know how to have joy inside without substances, you can't bring it to other people. Okay? It's very hard. So, keep questioning, keep asking, keep redesigning recovery for yourself so you can bring your methodology to the world and let other people know it's okay to stray away, okay? Do it uniquely yours, because that is what this is about.